What's up, and welcome to another episode of the Grindline Podcast. You're listening to episode 241. I am your host, Greg. I am here tonight with Ryan and a meatless Tyler. How are you guys doing tonight? Ryan, I'll let you go first because I'm going to wait for Tyler.
I wanted Tyler to go first just to get his story and apparently week of dismay out of the way. I'm good, though. I'm waiting to play Starfield. I haven't had to play it, unlike some people on here.
It's amazing.
I've heard fantastic things. I've already seen some people that have remade an X-Wing in the Millennium Falcon.
Yep.
Spoken highly of his smuggler life. So I'm looking forward to logging in.
The game is phenomenal. It is absolutely. Aside in free advertising, I guess, for anyone with an Xbox or a gaming PC, Starfield is an absolute must-buy. I mean, for me right now, so far, it's at a 9 out of 10, and I am only 7 hours into it. So it's absolutely amazing. Tyler, you can no longer say you're meat-free in 23. How you feeling?
I can't speak. I can't function, but here I am gutting through it. I'm doing all right. I mean, just going through the wonderful sinus infection, early fall kind of bullshit. But we're here. We're talking hockey, so I'm looking forward to doing that. I hope you didn't tell them the story about last week why I wasn't on the podcast.
Apparently, you didn't listen to the episode last week.
You didn't listen to the first 5 minutes.
I didn't. I've been really busy the last week, but yeah, I can't really defend myself. I guess I didn't chew my food well enough, and it ended up somewhere it shouldn't have, and I had to force myself to get rid of it.
In your throat, Tyler. Meat stuck in your throat.
What was it? I got to know. What were you eating?
It was a piece of chicken that I guess, so it was a little drier than I would have liked it to be. Now, one of the little pieces had a little bit of bone in it, and so I think instead of like chewing it well or getting rid of it, I was like, no, I can just swallow it, and so I did, and I was fine. And then I went to the gym, and it was like I could feel something stabbing my throat, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? So I went to my parents' house to grab a package. I talked to my mom, and I'm like, Mom, what's going on? She's like, you probably have something stuck in your throat. So she gives me like something. I think it was like a Coke or a Pepsi or something. She's like, this will make you get rid of it. So I got in the yard, and as soon as I burped, boom, there it went. I could see the thing. It was about the size of about half of a golf ball, and it was lodged in my throat. So that's good.
Okay.
Do you chew?
You're a goddamn barbarian. Like, what is happening with you?
I don't know. It's a trying time to be Tyler at this point, but we're just gonna work through it like a hockey player would, and gut through it.
All right, I'm gonna tell you what I tell my 2.5-year-old every time he coughs: chew your food. So that's from now on, chew your food. But we have a show tonight, so
yes,
we've got things to talk about. We've got people to talk about. We have prospect tournament rosters to talk about. But off the top, what's happening right now is that the Detroit Red Wings are currently rumored, and this is it's the world's most
not
random
alone, but
rumor.
They are currently rumored with it.
Yeah, and it's, I don't know how much I put into the rumor because it is from John Dietz. John Dietz has 512 followers, and he's from the Daily Herald covering the Blackhawks, Bears, Cubs, and golf. He quoted Open Ice that says Kane's recovery appears to be going faster than expected. Patrick Kane is quoted saying, could I come back early? Yeah, probably. It's a lot better than I was last year. And he quotes it saying, watch for Patrick Kane to sign with the Detroit Red Wings. Someone who knows Kane very well said he told him he wanted to follow Alex DeBrincat if and when he was able to. Of course, there has to be mutual interest. So we'll see if Detroit extends an olive branch. And immediately, I mean, and I'll tell you how divided it is. I ran a poll saying, do you want Patrick Kane on the Detroit Red Wings? And right now, it's final results, 2,830 votes. 53% say yes, 47% say no, out of over 2,800 people. So right off the top, and we'll throw this out here, and this is not what we're going to be focusing on. Yes, there are allegations. Yes, he was on the Blackhawks team when Kyle Beach was assaulted. Yes, he beat up a cab driver and has been accused by other people of doing other things that are not great. From a moral standpoint, we can 100% understand why you wouldn't want Patrick Kane on the team. What we're going to be focusing on is from a hockey standpoint, whether he would bring, I guess, enough to be worth a contract. All the other stuff aside, like, we get it and we know, and I agree with a lot of it, and we all have our positions. But from a hockey standpoint, we're going to talk about Patrick Kane's impact on a team. Do you guys want to start with contract impact, or do you want to start with data impact?
Let's go contract.
All right. So Evolving Hockey, I pulled the contract projection for Patrick Kane. The most likely contract that they had him getting was a 5-year contract at an AAV of $7.615 million. Automatically out of the window. Gone. That would absolutely not happen in Detroit. We don't have the
5-year
money.
deal for a guy
5
that's
years.
going to be 35 in November?
So it's 5-year deal at 28%, a 28% possibility of getting 5 years. But that's a lot of money, and we don't have that money. So don't have to worry about it.
For a 35-year-old.
It's a lot of term. You've got a 20% chance of a 2-year deal. And I assume that is more of what he'd be looking for. But a 2-year deal would also cost you an estimated $6.38 million, which you also don't have. The Red Wings right now, looking at cap friendly, are sitting at $5,156,527 in cap space. Thank you, weird Jeff Petrie contract, for the world's most random cap number.
Are we looking at the correct Patrick Kane, or are we looking at the Patrick Kane that had 92 points in 2021, 2022?
2 years ago. That's irrelevant at this point.
Yeah.
That's my question is like, if that's the Patrick Kane we're talking about, then both of those deals would be on the table.
Sure. But again, that's 2 years ago. A guy that we know very well has had his injury issues, hence why he's had double hip surgery this past offseason.
Is it double or is it single? He's had major hip surgery.
Regardless, things that most guys do not recover well from. Now, here's where I wish we had the doctors on call. We could just be like, hey, how jacked up is he going to be? I'll have to ask Dr. Berkeley here. I don't think last year did him any favors. Yes, he put up, 92 points on a bad Chicago team. Now, for most that year, he did have DeBrincat, am I not mistaken? I know that's where the oohs and ahs come from, but I don't see, especially for where every other team is at cap-wise, unless you're going to, let's see, who's available for $6.38 million? You've got Nashville, Buffalo, Chicago, Anaheim. Of those teams,
honestly,
I can
Buffalo,
realistically see it happening would be Buffalo. Because that's
Buffalo.
where he's from. That's where he's recovering from his injuries from. He still has a house out there. So, I don't know. I don't think if he's wanting to go to a contender, which Buffalo could arguably be that they are going to pay him more than a couple mil, especially coming off the injury. Or surgery, I should say. Not injury, the surgery. He played through it. I get that. He still made it through a full season. Went into the playoffs, sure. But that's still a big deal.
Last season in 73 games played, he had 21 goals and 36 assists for 57 points. I don't think I need to go over his career numbers because everyone knows they are good. I mean, he's over a point per game player in his career. But he's got awards. He's got rings. He has what people would call leadership. But he brings experience, is what he brings. He brings experience and knows what it takes to win on a team. But looking at and I pulled, I'm like, man, Patrick Kane, I'm going to pull things that might favor him. And I pulled his WAR chart from JFresh.
Still blows my mind.
And it blows my mind too. Because including last season, and I looked and I'm like, well, maybe it's better before. Last season, he had a projected, so up till now, a projected WAR of 4% with an EV offense of 1% and an EV offense of 0. Or EV defense of 0. We know Patrick Kane does not play defense. He plays the same amount of defense as Erik Karlsson does, which is absolutely none. He's a 52 on the power play, finishing a 71, a goals per 60 of 64, and assists per 60 of 87. But his EV offense is a 1%. I'm like, well, maybe I'll go back. Maybe I'll go back and just disregard last year and go from his 92 point season back. His projected WAR was a 9% with an EV offense of 2 and an EV defense of 0, which would mean that Patrick Kane doesn't really make your team win more games. I mean, barely. Is it just that the defense is so bad that it doesn't make up for the offense that he provides?
The stats for what you just highlighted, like you look at the points, You usually think that there's going to be more of a correlation to a strong EV offense. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, if you look at Evolving Hockey's charts, I mean, he last season was an overall of 5, an offense of 60, and a defense of 1. The season before, he was an overall of 58 with an offense of 68 and a defense of 15. So I feel like it was the hips that really killed him this last season. Like, the lateral move, we even talked about it, I believe, a few episodes ago. The lateral movement, gone. The speed, gone. The dude couldn't pivot because of his hips. And again, he had them fixed. But if you go back again, and we'll plug it, listen to the episode we were on, the Dr. Hockey podcast, you don't come back at 100%. You don't come back as the player that you were before the problem happened. You have to learn how to play your game again, learn what you need to do differently to pick your game up, and you basically relearn how you can play hockey, which is insanely hard for someone who's been doing it. I mean, Patrick Kane is 34 years old. He's been playing hockey for a really long time, and now he's going to have to adjust to see what he can do and how far he can push himself now. So that's kind of the rub there in getting a player of, especially at his age after having surgery, is the adjustments that are going to need to happen to be able to get back. Maybe he will get back, and maybe the hip is a million times better, and he'll be able to transition better, and he'll be able to pivot better and bring his defense up. If he can do that, then sure, he makes up for the lapses. But as it looks like last season, and he may not even be available till halfway through the season, this coming season, the defense just looks like it kills any kind of offense that he provides.
Which is crazy to me. It is, but it isn't. But because you think back to those years when they were cup hunting and cup hungry in Chicago, I'd be intrigued what the charts are there, because there's no doubt when you look at his hockey reference page, first thing that pops up in the top right-hand corner, 3-time cup winner, won the Conn Smythe, Hart Trophy winner, Art Ross winner, Chester B. Pearson Award winner, right? Chester B. Pearson, which is now
I was going to say, who the hell is that?
It used to be the Chester Pearson. I think it's now the Ted Lindsay, I think. And he was also part of the NHL's 100 greatest players. There's no doubt that the track record is there for what he can bring on the ice. But now it's at what cost? That's where it scares the shit out of me. Like all the points you brought up in terms of he's not that big of a guy. He's not really going to bring anything defensively. And offensively, sure, there's things that could happen in terms of chemistry with him and DeBrincat, possibly. I mean, you could argue that a DeBrincat, Larkin, and Kane line would be similar to that of DeBrincat, Kane, and Taves in Chicago. I think that would actually be very similar to how they would, and the power play likely would be fantastic, but the hip scares the hell out of me. And if he's just because he says he's coming back soon, better than feeling great already and can probably get it back out there, is he even back out in the ice yet for rehab?
He says it feels better, so I'm assuming he's doing some kind of skating. Otherwise, how do you say that?
I just, like you already mentioned, we go back to the Dr. Hockey guys. He's going to rush himself into a situation where, yes, mentally and probably strength-wise, he feels he's okay, but his body may not be ready. So now you're as a GM, that's where I think he's not going to get much more than $2 to $3 million for maybe a 1-year deal. Like Tarasenko, yeah, he had his injuries and he got what, $5-6 million payday from Ottawa, but he's recovered. He came back after his injury, and now he's out there and good to go. Kane is in a completely different situation at the moment, where because Tarasenko came back during the season and was set. Kane is now missing majority of his offseason for any type of rehab or just getting back into game shape. We've already seen what that can do to guys. Larkin, Kopp, the last couple of years, granted different injuries, but you see where I'm going with that.
Yeah, the just to correct you just quickly, the Lester B. Pearson Award is
Lester. I don't know why I was thinking Chester.
It's the most outstanding player as voted by the NHLPA, which is now the Ted Lindsay Award trophy. So you are totally correct, other than you said Chester, not Lester. But regardless of the situation, Patrick Kane, we all know, is one of the greatest American players, if not the greatest American player ever. Is it a situation where he can get back to where he was last year? Because if he can put up 57 points and 21 goals. Or
last year, you mean like the 92-point season? Or
I'm talking 57 points. I mean, that's better than a lot of players on this team right now.
Fair.
Can he? Obviously, it depends on the situation and how he recovers from this surgery. Is he going to sign before he's quote unquote ready to come back, or is he going to sign, when he's ready to actually play again? That's kind of the question.
Well, to that point, what's the deadline to having to be? Isn't it December? Or is that
December
just for
something?
RFAs?
Yeah, it's December.
It's like December 1st or December, like first week of December, right?
So I guess it depends on whether he's ready or, that December deadline. Do you want to play playoff hockey, or do you want to sit at home and sit out a year at 34 years old, which I would imagine at that point would be like, all right, Patty Kane's hanging him up more than likely, right? So, or he's coming back at a 1-year deal at the league minimum or something like that the year after. But regardless of the situation, I guess it depends on how he recovers from the surgery. If he can put up 65 points and 20 of those or 25 of those are goals, I mean, we've been looking for goal scoring for a long time. I know the defensive issues are certainly issues, but is it a situation where you can kind of live with it, with him being a guy that's a goal scorer? Can he put 25 or 30 in the net? Obviously, you spoke on the off ice issues. There's plenty to go through there. But just, I don't know, Patrick Kane, I think he'd make your team better. I know he'd make your team better, especially you rekindle him with DeBrincat, put him with Larkin. I mean, those are 3 solid hockey players. You could put that in the top 10 and best lines in the NHL, I think, if you were to put that together, and Patrick Kane is anywhere close to that 92-point guy. And that's really the question. Is he that guy? Is he the guy from last year, or is he somewhere in the middle where, 70 points and 25 to 30 goals? I don't know.
Are you basing your points off him starting the season, though?
Yeah, and that's the point. I'm not sure. Nobody's really sure whether he's going to come back for the season, or it's going to be a December situation, or even November, somewhere around there. But in terms of would get players to be excited to play with, and just a great American player. I mean, the Red Wings have a litter of American players that I'm sure looked up to Patrick Kane at one point, or watched Patrick Kane at some point, especially guys like Dylan
Larkin has said that he did. I think that the only thing is like it would depend on the contract.
Yep.
And I don't think he would take a year, so you'd probably have to do 2. And then you'd have to take a really big discount. Like, you'd have to say, okay, we don't know how your hips are going to be. And if you're not coming back until January, I mean, we'll give you 2 years. It'll technically really only be a year and a half. And I don't know, 2 years at $4 million. I mean, that's more of a, I guess, see what you can do. But I think even still, that if it hits, it hits. And if it doesn't, it's not great. I mean, and then there's the fact that he's quoted saying, living in Detroit, I actually hated the Red Wings, hated the Pistons, hated all the Detroit teams. And he's from Buffalo. He played for Honey Baked in 2003 and 2004, the US NTDP in Ann Arbor from 2004 to 2006. And this was when he was living in Detroit. I mean, he hated all the teams when he lived here. So, I mean, you got to kind of, and we talked about this earlier in the chat, like, you can't walk those comments back, because you literally said, I hated Detroit. Well, he lived here, he hated Detroit. So, and I get he wanted to play with Alex DeBrincat again. Maybe if he was still in Ottawa, he would, but I don't know how 1, Detroit gets it done, and 2, how, like, he just doesn't go play for Buffalo because it's his hometown team and they've got a ton of money.
Yeah, I mean, they'd probably have to make a move for a roster spot. Quick correction. So the December 1st deadline is strictly for or RFAs, that arbitration or RFA, I think in general, the way I'm reading this. So I think for UFA, it doesn't matter as long as he's signed probably before the deadline. That's the only, I'm trying to find it. I don't see it specifically, but the biggest thing is December 1st roughly is the deadline. So like a Joe Veleno, if he would have went to that point and not signed by December 1st, they wouldn't have been eligible to play. From what I can tell, that doesn't matter for a UFA.
I mean, yeah, he's from Buffalo. That's one thing. The other thing is he was probably, 17, 18 years old. I know at that point I was, a hockey player, not as good as Patrick Kane, of course, but I hated a lot of teams that I could give two fucks about now. So, I mean, you could walk those back and say, I was young, I was dumb. And, obviously, I'm sure he hated the Wings when he was in Chicago, but that rivalry has subsided a lot. I mean, the Hawks aren't as good. The Wings, haven't been as good as we all know. And they only play twice a year. So it's the rivalry has subsided a lot. I think the only way you get the deal done is if it's short money, short term, and it's because he wants to play with DeBrincat or likes the young nucleus or for some reason loved Steve Yzerman or something like that.
So what's your number? What are you comfortable with?
2 years, somewhere in the 2 to 2.5 per year.
Ryan, what are you comfortable with?
It's tough because are you paying him based off last season or are you paying him based off 2-3 years ago?
You have to give me a AAV and a year number. What are you comfortable with?
I don't see it being
knowing what you know.
2 years would be the max based on what I would think is air quotes appropriate at 3 to 3.5. Honestly, what I would do at this point is almost have it be a replacement contract with Fabry, but I don't think $4 million would be appropriate.
I'm in your boat. I'm saying 2 years at about $3.5 million is my ceiling because you still need wiggle room there. You're freeing up a ton of cap next season, but Mo needs a contract. Reimer needs a contract. Berger needs a contract. Rasmussen, I think, needs another contract. So you need to sign some of your young guys. And I'm not. Yep. Yeah, I'm not dumping cap into a 35-year-old Patrick Kane at that point who is coming off a hip surgery.
Here's what it comes down to now is if you're looking at an old guy contract, and I hate saying old guy because these guys are actually younger than me.
Give him the Perron.
David Perron is 35 on an expiring deal. He'll be 36 next May.
Yep.
He's making $4 3/4. If Patty Kane will be 35, as I said, in November. Are you paying? Would you rather pay a guy like Perron for another year or a Patrick Kane for 2 years and Perron walks after this contract?
Yeah, and Perron hasn't had hip surgery.
And his body, he can play defensively in his body.
Yep. So I think we're all in the same boat. If it's low, and if we're just talking sign him to play hockey, disregarding everything else again, it's got to be low term and it's got to be fairly low money, or else you're taking the risk does not outweigh the reward at that point.
So would you guys say low risk, high reward kind of situation?
It's not low risk whatsoever.
After the surgery, I don't think it's low risk.
It's medium to high risk, but potentially high reward.
It depends on the cap, though. $2 billion,
Well, I'm not worried about the cap. That part.
No, we're saying just the signing in general is medium to high risk with potentially high reward.
You don't want it to be Stephen Weiss like.
Yeah, exactly.
Possibly. Yeah. I mean, because it just comes down to missing time for camp, missing all this time for proper workouts in the off season after a significant maneuver type surgery. I don't know.
All right, we're going to end it with I don't know. We are going to move into a commercial break. Message from DraftKings, and when we come back, we are going to talk about some words from the perfect human as well as the prospect tournament rosters. We'll be back in just 1 minute. College football fans, are you ready for week one? DraftKings Sportsbook is hooking you up with a can't-miss offer to start the season strong. This week, new customers can bet just $5 on college football and score $200 in bonus bets instantly. Anything can happen in college football. Your team could go from unranked to dynasty mode in just a couple of years. Change comes fast. The only thing that is a lock is the great offers from DraftKings Sportsbook. Life's more fun when you're in on the action. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. New customers can score $200 in bonus bets instantly when they bet just $5 on college football. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. See dknng.co/football for eligibility, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. And we're back, and we have Nick Lidstrom with some predictions for the Red Wings in 2023-24. This was published a mere 2 hours ago by Kevin Allen on Detroit Hockey Now. Thank you to Ryan for dropping it in our chat, so I knew this existed. So Lidstrom did an interview with Gunnar Nordstrom over at Expressen, and he is quoted saying, "We have strengthened the whole team, and I think we should be a playoff team in the spring. And if there's anyone that knows about playoff teams, it is Nick Lidstrom." I'm on Team Nick. I hope that this may sway more people to Team Nick. He goes on to talk about a few other things. Lucas Raymond, he says he improved during the second half of last season, so he's not worried. There can be a dip in the second year in the NHL when all opponents know how good you are, and the courting becomes tougher, and everyone now knows how good Lucas is, but I'm convinced that he will come back with a little desire for revenge. That's like a great line from Nick Lidstrom. Speaking on Elmer Soderblom, he says Elmer was unlucky with injuries at the end of the season in Grand Rapids. He absolutely has the potential to break into the team this fall, even if the competition is tough. So he's saying that Elmer's back. On William Wallinder, William has stepped up in Rogla and become more even in his game. He can be involved in all situations, and the idea is that he will stay in North America next season. If he doesn't get a place in the Red Wings before the start of the series, it will be Grand Rapids. And then on Edvinsson, he says, we'll see if he's ready for the season to start in October, but we are aware it may take longer. And don't forget that we also have Albert Johansson, who is fighting for a place on defense. So let's start with Lidstrom predicting playoffs. How do you feel? You feel better, right, Ryan? Because last week you said you're on team no playoffs.
I'm still going to stick that way, and I will happily, like I said, lose this argument with myself that
Ryan will happily do a shoey on the episode.
Not gonna fucking happen, but you know what? I'll be okay with it. I won't care. No, it's interesting because you hear things like this from Nick Lidstrom. He was nicknamed the perfect human for a reason. I mean, he knows what a playoff team can be all about, and you look at the build of this one, it arguably could be. Will it be? To be seen. We need all the cards to be laid down in our favor, and it could happen. I like the way that he specifically called out so many Swedes. Obviously, he would because it's a Swedish article. But Raymond, Berggren, Soderblom, he even has a direct call out of William Wallinder, and how all of these guys are looking to be impactful coming into the season, Lucas in particular. And he feels that he should have the bounce back season that we're hoping for. If he does, that's huge. I think if he's out past his scoring pace from his rookie campaign, we're in a really good spot. And I think I kind of talked about this over the last couple episodes about if some of these guys really shine through with their hopeful point predictions or point totals, like we see a Johnny Burgers popping off for 50, 60 plus points. A lot of good things are happening this season for this team. And what I think helps in terms of a potential playoff push is all of the youth that is available, skilled youth that is available to replace guys either at the forward side or defensive side. So I think that does play into Lidstrom's prediction. It scares the hell out of me because I think I've been ruined partly by any faith in an organization because of the Detroit Lions at this point. But again, another team that by the time hopefully this episode's out before Thursday, go Lions, no Kelsey potentially for KC. Let's go. I don't know. Raymond, I think is a pivotal piece to the bounce back in regards to this article. And if he performs the way we hope, a lot can change. And I could see where that could play into his prediction.
So I'm going to pause you for a second because I just got access to the JFresh historical player cards going all the way back to 2007. And I'm going to take you on a Patrick Kane tour starting in 2017, where his WAR was a 98%. 2018, it dropped to 95. 2019, it dropped to 88. 2020, it dropped to 84. 2021, it dropped to 60. 2022, it dropped to 18. And 2023, it dropped to 4. So the decline of Patrick Kane started in 2017, 2018, to where it hit rock bottom in 2022, 23. So that answers your question about you wondered
of the Hawks.
You wondered what his war was on, like, whether they went in 2013. Is that when the Hawks won? He was at a 91%
last
in 2013.
Cup win was 14-15.
So 2015, he was at 98%. So he was at his peak when they won the cup. And he has declined from 2017 onward. But again, we'll move back to Nick Lidstrom, talk about playoffs. Tyler, where are you at on the Lidstrom playoff train?
Yeah, I think it's obviously interesting to see a guy like Nick Lidstrom come out and say something like that. Obviously, that speaks volumes, I would say. I mean, you have a lot of young guys going forward. You brought in some veterans like DeBrincat and obviously JT Compher and guys like that. Obviously, you brought in a guy like Klim Kostin and other guys like Gostisbehere and Holl, even though a lot of people have kind of made fun of that. But and then you have a lot of young guys waiting in the wings as well. So I could see where he's coming from. I don't know if I'm going to pick this team to make the playoffs yet. We'll see what happens. We'll see what the roster looks like, the final roster right before opening night. And we'll see where I'm at there. Right now, I'm leaning yes, but we'll see what happens. I kind of agree with him. And the reason I say that is, year 3 for a guy like Lucas Reimer, could he become a 30 to 35 goal scorer? I mean, that puts you in a damn good spot, especially if Alex DeBrincat can, have 30 to 35 or maybe even 40. Is that asking too much? Maybe a career year from Dylan Larkin. So I can see where he's coming from. I think for the first time in a long time, you can actually see the possibility of where people are coming from when they say, well, you know what? The Red Wings are possibly a playoff team. And you know what? That's about where we want to be at this point.
So Wingwheel Media earlier on Instagram put out a Lucas Reimer prediction for the 2023-24 season. With a predicted 26 goals, 43 assists for 69 points, in which I replied, nice. But also, I think he could hit 30. Like, my prediction was 30 goals and we'll say 40 assists for 70 points. And I think that's achievable for Lucas Reimer, especially if he plays power play with Larkin and DeBrincat. If he plays top line with Larkin and DeBrincat, we'll see how it goes, but it's a possibility. And Nick Lidstrom says revenge tour, and I'm here for a Lucas Reimer revenge tour. Put on all that muscle, looking swole. I think he could hit 70 points this season. And I think the team needs him to hit 70. I don't think they need him to be a point per game player, but I think they need him to hit 60 to 70 points for it to be considered a successful season for Lucas Reimer.
Beat me to the punch. I was going to ask if that was something that needed to happen, and I would agree.
Yeah. What do you feel about him saying Elmer Soderblom could make the team even with the competition on the roster? Now, last we heard, Dan Cleary said that Soderblom needs to work on his consistency, bringing the same game, same mentality, same play every day, same work to the rink every practice. If he has brought that, do you see a possibility that Soderblom could make the opening night lineup, especially with how packed it is?
I could see him beating out of Joe Veleno.
I think that's who you have to beat out, right? Joe Veleno, Robbie Fabry.
Be the likely. If it's not Joe Veleno,
it's Robbie Fabry.
Maybe. I mean, does got to think Fabry's back healthy,
what about a
right?
Christian Fischer?
Fischer could be an odd man out. I could see that too.
Because
you've got a different level of offense that Soderblom should hopefully bring that Fischer could do, but likely can't do. But are you going to get the same defensive output from Elmer that you will have from a Fischer? That's going to be the question. It's not going to come down to what he brings offensively more than anything. It's going to come down to what he ends up doing defensively that can set him apart and make him valuable to where the team's at for where he'd be on the actual lineup.
I think it's interesting. I think it's definitely a situation where you could see him making the team. It's just kind of going to depend on, can he beat someone like we kind of alluded to it already, but a guy like Fischer, who was signed this offseason, or Joe Veleno, who was just signed recently, is there an injury in camp that helps him make the team? That will be the interesting part to look into at once we get to that point. But if he's really made that much progress and the roster is the way it is, he's going to have to beat somebody out, because there's not just going to be a spot for Soderblom at this point, I don't think.
I agree. And that is why we will move on to our last section tonight, which is the prospect tournament roster, where Elmer Soderblom is actually going to be. So I think that is where you need to see the first huge step from Elmer, is to just own this prospect tournament. So forwards, Riley Sawchuk, Nate Danielson, Carter Mazur, Matthias Malovsky, Dean Lucas, Alexander Doucet, Emmett Finney, Cross Hanas, Amadeus Lombardi, Israel Mainscomb, Nick Sema, Elmer Soderblom, Jake Uberti, Marco Kasper are your forwards. Your defense is Andrew Gibson, Antti Tuomisto, William Wallinder, Connor Punnett, Finn Harding, Jackson D'Souza, Tanias Mathurian, and goalies Sebastian Cossa, Jan Bednar, and Lucas Mecha. And I guess I want to know who you need to see kind of just show up in this tournament and dominate. And I'm going to throw out a couple names. Like I just said, Soderblom is one. Kasper, I need to see he's 100% coming back from this surgery and just destroys this tournament. I would love to see Hanas and Doucet light it up. I would love to see Carter Mazur go out and bully people. I want to see a huge showing out of Nate Danielson. Like, he's supposed to go back to junior. Is this where Nate Danielson says, put me on the Red Wings? I doubt it. But he's got the frame and build to do it. He might have the game to do it. We'll see what happens. On defense, Wallinder should have a strong tournament regardless. Tuomisto for moving over to North America. I want to see what he can do. And of course, Cossa needs to come in and lock it down. But those are my guys that I need to see have a huge tournament.
I think my list is much smaller. I think Elmer is one. And if you're talking about making the Wings out of camp, you got to see something crazy from either Marco Kasper or Carter Mazur. I think more is right down the line for Kasper. I think he is well aware that if he doesn't make the roster, he's going back to Grand Rapids. Fine. But those are the ones where the prospect tournament, and I think the Kasper point, he was at the NHLPA, Upper Deck Rookie Showcase today.
I saw that.
The world's mouthful of a display is what he was at.
So he was there today, I think it was. I don't know if it was just a one-day thing or not.
No, it was today.
Just today only. With
Can you
Bednar
acronym
and
that
other
for
top
me, Ryan?
rookies in the league right now. What's that?
Can you acronym that for me? What would the acronym of that be? Do I need to search it to give you an acronym?
NHLPA UD P
RS, Rookie Showcase? Is that what it was?
UDRS? Yeah, something like that. Whatever.
I'll look it up.
So no, I think like those guys, and the reason I call them out in particular is because they've got time and have seen pro hockey. They know what it's about. But at the same time, this is going to be their springboard into a preseason, meaning they've got some games under their belt. They've got some skating and high intensity already built in. Granted, yes, I know NHL players, they'll do what they got to do, but we've seen it before. We saw with Raymond. This can be what propels them potentially ahead of a guy that might be a fringe roster player. So I think it's huge for any of them. Defensively, though, Wallinder has the most writing on it, but I think that he's destined for Grand Rapids. So at least as of right now.
It is the NHLPA UDRS would be what it is, because it's the NHLPA Upper Deck Rookie Showcase. He joined guys like Connor Bedard, Leo Carlson, Matthew Nyes, Brock Faber, Will Kyle, or Cooley. Is it Kyle or Cooley? Cuylle? I guess it'd be Cooley.
Cooley?
Sure, whatever. He was there. He was on ice doing pictures for Upper Deck, which I'm sure going to be for his Young Guns card that I'll have to hunt in the next set coming up here. But I guess, Tyler, who needs to stand out for you at the prospect tournament?
So I'm looking forward to Nate Danielson, obviously, first round pick. That's certainly someone to look forward to. Carter Mazur, obviously a guy that had the Wings not went out and got the players that they did. Maybe he has a shot at making the team. Amadeus Lombardi, obviously a very crafty player. cross Hanas, see how he returns from the injury. He was hurt last year, right?
Yeah, Cross Hanas had to have shoulder surgery, I believe.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So the aforementioned Elmer Soderblom, another guy, the big guy, can he really take a step, kind of like Draper talked about already? Is he ready to take that step and maybe take a job away from somebody else? Obviously, Marco Kasper coming off the injury. We'll see where that goes. Obviously, we hope that he's 100% or at least getting closer to that. And then obviously Kossa's the guy. I mean, Kossa's the guy that you really want to see him take the net. Is he going to be a situation where he takes the net in Grand Rapids this year? Is he going to be the backup? Is it going to be a 1A, 1B kind of situation? Then obviously on defense, William Wallinder is certainly a guy that, you got to be looking forward to if you're a Red Wings fan. So those would be the guys that I'm looking forward to in this prospect tournament in September.
It is September currently. I believe the prospect tournament starts on the 14th. I think. Ryan,
you're
correct me if I'm wrong.
I can't believe we're in September at this point.
14th, right? That's when the prospect tournament starts. I think
I think it's the 15th. God damn it!
It's in the middle of September.
In the next
when the prospect
week and a half to 2 weeks.
I will be in Texas while the prospect tournament is happening.
Yeah. Where else are you not going to be in the next month, Greg?
I will not be at the home opener because there is a children's Halloween camping trip that my in-laws planned that I must be at. But also,
do you?
I do. If
is
the
it
kids
far
were a
away?
little older, it's in Indian River, so it's 4 hours away, 4.5
Oh,
hours.
come on.
Dad's not feeling so well. He's staying home. He's staying home.
Not enthused, but I understand. And if the children were not 5 and 2.5, I could probably skip it. But I'm going to do it, and I'm going to make the family happy, and I'm going to do it. But before we end tonight's episode, I want to give a huge shout out to my daughter, who had her first day of kindergarten today.
Hey!
And is like the world's best student. She loves it. Was for the past month talking nothing but I want to go to kindergarten. She had a super awesome time. She's going to make a ton of friends, and it was really awesome. So big props to Lily for her first day of kindergarten. It's a proud dad moment, sending a kid who wants to go learn to school.
You're such a dad, Greg.
I know, man. It's great.
14th is the prospect tournament.
14th. Let's go. Prospect tournament on the 14th. But I want to get you guys' final thoughts before we sign off time, because I really don't have anything else to say about the prospect tournament. It has shrunk in size. It's now only 4 teams. It's still going to be just as cool. I recommend it to everyone if you've never been there. Ryan, have you ever been to the prospect tournament?
I unfortunately have not. I know several people that will be actually attending this year and supporting, actually working it.
Cool.
I'm jealous. Maybe one day.
We're going next season.
Huh?
We're going next season.
Yep.
Bring the family. We'll go next season because it's a fun trip. I brought Lily when she was 3 or 2, and she loved it. It was awesome. She stood there and just hit the boards. It was great.
Ryan, you heard what he said? Bring the family.
Bring the family, man. I get an Airbnb, and it's just for the weekend, and it's awesome.
Tyler, you're my unofficial kid at this point.
So if you've never been, I highly suggest going to the prospect tournament. It's a really cool time. And if you stay for training camp, you can actually get autographs and stuff. It's a lot of fun. But I want to get you guys' final thoughts before we sign off. And we will start with meat throat.
Oh God. That's not a great
it's gonna stick. I'm gonna get you a jersey with it on the back.
Final thoughts are I'm just letting you all know that I am coming into town for the Wings home opener. It's gonna be an adventure to get from Ann Arbor to Detroit for the Wings home opener, but I am going to the Michigan-Indiana game that day as well. So that will be an adventure. I'm sure I'll be tired, but I'm sure I'll be very drunk as well. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing all of you guys, and especially
Do you have
Ryan.
tickets to the home opener yet?
What?
Do you even have home opener tickets yet?
No, not yet.
Get them now, right now. Stop what you're doing, because if you want to sit anywhere nice, it's almost at $300 a ticket.
That's all right. I'll probably sit up top. That's fine. Usually I would say no, but at this point, I mean, it's kind of last minute. I didn't think I was going to be coming at this point, but I am going to make it. So
I would suggest at least mezzanine if you're going up top.
That's what she
respect
said.
To your dad's knees.
That's a good point. Good point. But yes, I am coming to town for the home opener. So I am looking forward to seeing everybody and cramping Ryan's style while I'm in town.
Got a
So,
full basement I can banish you guys to. We're good now.
definitely looking forward to that. You can follow me on Twitter at SealDog91.
No,
Ryan,
I'm pumped. Wings stuff is only 9 days away, the 14th through the 17th for the Prospects tournament. Looking forward to hopefully some good coverage there. Can't wait to hear Daniela and Ken Cal going at it. Yeah, other than that, I did finally got a hold of my ticket rep for the year. So if we're trying to do group things, it sounds like that is one of her specialties, Greg. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. So if you got an idea what you want to do, let me know and I will talk with her.
do I have ideas?
I figured you did. I already planted the seed, and I guess she actually came. She was with the San Jose Sharks the last couple of years, and she handled all their group ticket stuff. So
Did you let her know you're part of a pretty prominent podcast?
I may have, yes.
Great.
Yeah.
It opens the door for me. Thank you, Ryan.
So we'll figure it out. I didn't say who. I didn't want to be that much of a douchebag, but I said I'm with the podcast. I'm not with that one. I'm not that Ryan. So I made that point.
Socials.
But no, I just want to throw that out there. And Tyler, if you do need help potentially with tickets, let me know. I can try to have you get you in touch with her.
I may actually.
Okay,
That's a good point.
So on that note, already around 33.
My final thoughts are head to our merch shop where there is currently, and that might be over by the time this is posted, currently a 40% off sale happening right now.
Know why we had some sales hit today?
Check the Grindline Podcast Twitter at Grindline Pod for the code and see if it's still working. I put up some new merch. There's an Andrew Kopp shirt now done in the Cops TV show font, which is pretty cool. There's a Huso shirt that just says Hoos on it. It's a good shirt. And then we've got Mo Sider Jesus. We've got the one I'm wearing right now, which is Mo with the Flow. It's a good one from his draft picture. And there's a lot up there now. And there will be more throughout the season as well. But you can follow me online at Breaking the Wing. You can follow the Grindline Podcast online at Grindline Pod. Give a shout out to the Hockey Podcast Network at HockeyPodNet for hosting us and spreading us around. And Vintage Detroit for being the absolute best people to do your Detroit jerseys. All of your Detroit jerseys, get them from Vintage Detroit. They're amazing people and have an amazing product. We also like to give a shout out to Howie's Hockey Tape, where if you use the promo code Grindline, you get 10% off. And Bring Hockey Back, if you use the promo code Grindline, you get 12% off. You can also go sub to us on YouTube and watch us make fun of Tyler in video. It's amazing. Happens all the time. When Tyler's not here, I put up funny little pictures where he should be, and it's awesome. So go ahead and go over to YouTube, sub, turn on the notifications. You get to see a bunch of pretty graphics and everything we are talking about. I try to display on screen for everyone to look at. But that's going to do it for us tonight. So for Ryan and Tyler, I am Greg. You stay classy, Hockeytown.